Amendment 767. Clerk will read.
On page 15, line
Last
20,
line.
internal references accordingly.
The member from the 19th District to move adoption of the amendment, Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please move Amendment 767.
It has been moved and seconded that Amendment 767 be adopted. Remarks, Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is an important amendment to the underlying bill. Essential, really. It resolves a major flaw in the underlying bill, and that is this, Mr. Speaker, that it treats criminal drug possession as a simple misdemeanor and only does so for 2 years. What this amendment does is it raises the penalty to a more appropriate gross misdemeanor and makes that the lasting policy of the state until we decide to change it at some future date. This is important, Mr. Speaker, for a number of reasons. My own political philosophy, Mr. Speaker, is a small L libertarian. I believe in limited government and a few laws enforced fairly across the population. I have sympathy for a lot of the supporters and the movement of reforming criminal justice for those who are drug addicted. But I'm not an anarchist, Mr. Speaker. We are a nation built on laws. We are a state born and raised in laws. We must support and defend lawful behavior, Mr. Speaker. The underlying bill, without this amendment, returns after 2 years to a state of lawlessness in this state of Washington. We can't have that, Mr. Speaker. We need to have laws that are clearly defined and permanent. This is so that people who are part of our state, people who live in our communities, understand what is lawful and what is not. If we move the goalposts too often, Mr. Speaker, we confuse and confound public policy and the people of the state. For clarity, for lawfulness, please vote yes.
The member from the 19th District, Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please vote no on this flawed bill that, as others have said, has been thrust on us in haste by a flawed opinion from the state Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, we all want to help addicts break the chains of addiction. The difference among us is simply the best means to that good end. You know, we talk a lot about addiction and the effects of addiction on our communities, on our society, and our state at large. But the challenge, Mr. Speaker, is that addiction is an intensely personal thing. We flatter ourselves that public policy changes that. Ultimately, Mr. Speaker, the decision to break the chains of addiction is one that only the individual person can make. And our approach as a society to encourage the individual to make that decision it needs to be many faceted. There is no one single path. There is no formula that can be reproduced across the population. We need a soft approach. We also need tough love in many cases. Let's not pretend that soft love is kinder or more compassionate than tough love, Mr. Speaker. Sometimes the thing that will bring the addict into the sunlight is the harsh facing of the consequences of his or her choices. Sometimes jail is the solution that saves the life of the addict in a self-destructive spiral. We need all these options, Mr. Speaker. We can't let an imperfect, split decision from our state Supreme Court force us into
The member has 30 seconds remaining.
Policy made hastily. We need to keep all options open. We need to keep law on the books. We need to encourage lawful behavior and sobriety to the addicts in our state. Please vote no on this flawed bill.